Hey everybody, welcome back to Champlin Garage. We're back with the 71 C20. I'd said in the last video there's a car show I was wanting to get to, so I was really trying to rush to get the truck done. I ended up having some electrical problems, could not get the truck to crank or start. It's a couple weeks later now, got those problems figured out. The truck cranked, it started right up once I bled the fuel system, and I'll show you what we ran into there. Put the whole fuse box in and ran all the wires about where they're going to go, but of course we got to go through, clean everything up, but this is just a test to see if it'll run. We got fluid filled in everything. I got all of the interior wires thrown in, and then I threw in the stock steering column. That way we'd still have key, all of these options, and then the stock gauge cluster. Now the first thing I noticed was when I turned the key to on, I wouldn't have any gauges, no fuel gauge, no oil pressure, no temperature, and nothing up in this display. So we had no dash lights, no gauges, and then we also were missing the Prindle light. So the little dash underneath park was not there. And whenever I would turn the key to start, nothing would happen. You'd hear it click. A lot of people think it would be the starter relay, but it was actually the headlights turning on and off for when you crank it. So if you go turn the headlights off and then try and crank it, nothing would click whatsoever. I went around, checked all my grounds, got everything hooked up correctly, and it ended up being, there's these two connectors that go under the fuse box, a white one and a black one. And I ended up untaping those wires, wiggling them around. I wiggled them around, checked back in here, and all of a sudden I had my gauges, I had the Prindle light. And as soon as I turned the key over to start, this thing cranked up and started right up. I do have a video of it starting, so I'll throw that in now. So now that I know that everything's hooked up correctly, I'm not throwing any codes that I wasn't before. So now, like all this wiring went back to the def tank, I can take all this out, eliminate a bunch of this stuff. That will be able to clean all this wiring up. I'll put all new tape on it, all new loom on it, and run it correctly. So that way it looks clean in here, it's not messy, and everything is easy to find, easy to work on, and make it look good. And the last thing that we needed to make this truck move under its own power was a drive shaft. Since this truck's a little bit shorter, the drive shaft from the donor truck was too long. So I took the old drive shaft, cut and split the end off of it, cut about 5 inches off of the tube, re-welded it, just got it all painted, it's drying. So then we'll throw it in the truck, and hopefully this thing should move all under its own power. Okay, a few weeks of wiring later, and we're finally done. We went through, took out all of the emissions wiring, re-taped everything, re-loomed everything, zip tied up for now. It's not how it's gonna be when it's final, but all this stuff's gonna get replaced at some point. So it's in there good enough for now. I went ahead and threw the hood on. I had to take the springs off the hinges and cut off the mounts. That way they'd fit. We'll end up getting some billet hood hinges, and those have a strut instead of a spring, so they should fit completely fine. Everything's plugged back in. We went ahead, threw the bumper on. That looks real funky because of the body lift that we have on, but that'll do for now. It gives us blinkers until I have time to build a new bumper. We got everything to where it closes right. I still have to go back and add the latch for the hood, but for now we're just using the ratchet strap. Got everything run through the firewall over here, everywhere else in the firewall plugged up. We made heat shields back behind the turbo and on top of the exhaust. And here's a look at all the wiring I removed. we removed all of the emission stuff and all the airbag stuff, since this truck will not have either. So quite a bit of wiring taken out, a lot of plugs, but it left us with a lot less in here, a lot more room, and able to make it look a little bit cleaner. Then on the back here, I went ahead and installed a fast lift pump. I welded a bracket to the frame, and then this bolts to that, so it sits in real tight and out of the way, and it won't hang down lower than anything else, so we should be safe. I also ran all new fuel line to the pump, since the Duramax fuel lines would not fit on this truck. Got all the wiring zip tied up along the frame. Got this computer all secured back here, just self-tapped into the frame. Went ahead and threw the bumper on, that way we have tail lights and license plate. I had to cut the muffler out of the exhaust so it would fit. It's real tight through there. I still need to build hangers, and we just have it ratchet strapped over for now, but it should work. Get all the exhaust out, at least past the cab. And then inside the cab, we got all of the wiring re-taped up and loomed in here. It's kind of a mess right now. I have a new e-brake bracket coming, so I'm gonna replace that, and then all this wiring will get tucked up behind the dash. It'll look good, but for now it works. We got our blinkers up in here, and we can start it right from the key on the floor. And I just have the stock Duramax gauge cluster plugged in for now. Up behind the firewall, I ended up adding more sound deadener insulation. And then over on that side, I went ahead and ordered and put in a vintage air system. It's just bolted in for now. I still need to go through and wire the whole thing. Ahead and did that so that we could block the firewall off back here. And then I just have these two heater hoses I got to plug in those two ports, and then we should have heat at least in this truck for the winter. I'll get to that one of these days. I'm just gonna go get this thing driving around and have some fun with it. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead, start the truck up, let it warm up, and then we're gonna go for a drive. Okay guys, so we're back from the initial test drive. I went around, had a little bit of fun with it. This is the first time I've got to drive this Duramax since the wrecked truck was so messed up, and I wanted to get everything tidy enough on this. I didn't risk messing anything up on the test drive. So a couple months, tore this whole truck apart, tore the wrecked truck apart, swapped it all over, and now we have a running and driving truck again. So that said, I'm gonna go ahead, wrap this video up. The next things on the truck is going to be adding some more sound deadener in here, getting that heater working, and then I'm going to try and get this thing into a shop so I can start four-wheel drive swapping it, building a front bumper, and then building a bed. So stay tuned. We're going to make this thing comfortable, and then we are going to start with a lot of fabrication. hit that subscribe button. We're here pretty soon. This thing's gonna start coming together a lot more, looking a lot more right, and we'll be able to drive it around a lot safer and more reliable. Thank you.